Hello, communicators. Welcome to episode 16 of the audio series, The Communicator. Let's dive into the world of corporate communications from an in house lens. I'm Yesenia Reinoso, your host, and thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the show or are a general member, hit that subscribe button. You can also share, like, and comment on this and previous episodes at your disposal. Spread it far and wide, friends. I'm available on social media, so follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter/X. All of my handles are listed in the episode description box below. And finally, this episode and all previous 15, yes, you heard it right, 15 volumes are now available across all primary podcast mediums. Every new episode comes out on the first and third Mondays of the month, which you can hear on your laptop, mobile, or any portable electronic device. It just feels so good to say that introduction once again. And welcome everybody to the season 2 premiere of The Communicator. We are back, bigger, better, more refreshed than ever from our hiatus. I'm Yesenia Reinoso, your host, and I just feel so joyful to be welcoming back my community to the podcast world. We are once again ready to kick off a brand new season. I hope everybody got the rest that they deserve. I certainly did. And I know for a fact that the communicator community is itching to get this vehicle back up and rolling again. And so I want to welcome our budding, growing community who has been with me from day one. And to our new members, welcome. And I can't wait to dive in and speak with you about corporate communications from an in house perspective. I am an award winning bilingual content creator, storyteller, and entrepreneur with almost 15 years of corporate communications experience working specifically in house for the for profit and nonprofit sectors. And just being able to have a medium and to talk to you about my experiences, knowledge, and to build a platform for all of you to not only consume this information, but ultimately use it in your professional plans. And so I truly hope this is a resource for you. Obviously, all of my communications mediums are open. If you want to submit a question, suggestion, anything whatsoever to help us improve the show, we are here to expand its footprint and truly make it a resource for everybody to consume. And so, anything that you can offer for us to strengthen this show, I am all ears. Remember, I built this for you. This is my gift to you. And so I am so ecstatic to be back here on the podcast mic and ready to dive into season number 2 of The Communicator. I know everybody had the opportunity to look back and reconsume all of the amazing coverage that we did for season 1, where I gave everybody a general introduction to corporate communications. What is it all about? The purpose, the one-on-ones, everything. It's available on all major podcast channels if you want to go back and give it a listen. But I wanted the communicator to be like a train where we go on a magnificent journey through the communications landscape, and we're going to be stopping at each area within the corporate communications umbrella so that we could vasten its beauty, assimilate the knowledge, and as well as have an open dialogue as to what each component entails, how can we make it better, and generate real solutions that are going to be beneficial for all of us storytellers as we figure out new creative ways to bring out our voices and, more importantly, tell authentic, genuine stories that's going to resonate with audiences, build connections, and establish ourselves as thought leaders. So I really hope that through season 1, I laid down the groundwork in preparation for future seasons to come. And now we are going to begin that journey deep into the corporate communications umbrella. So sit back, grab a glass of wine or whatever your preference is, relax, and let's go into the corporate communications umbrella with the first stop in the ecosystem. Obviously, this topic is going to be our king theme for season 2. All of the episodes which, by the way, season number 2 is going to be a 10-episode run. So have that in mind. All of the 10 episodes that I'm going to be doing is going to link back to our primary theme, which is external communications. And I know for a fact everybody knows or has at least a general idea as to what external communications is one of the most important and as well used areas within the corporate communications umbrella. I know through my experience, external communications can simply go into areas such as public relations, media relations, marketing, among others. I've also had conversations with people who are not within the communications industry, but definitely do know that external communications has a very strong link to media. As a matter of fact, when they think about external communications, the first thing that pops out of their head is media, which is technically true. Media is part of external comms, but that's just a small piece of it. External communications is a lot more than that. And throughout this season, we're going to be diving into the ins and outs of external communications, what it's all about, its purpose, impact, the why, but we're also going to be diving into the other areas of external comms that many people may not know about, but now will be the time to do so. And so, as complex as it is, it also gives all of us an opportunity to have a better understanding as to the overall function of this critical piece and why we need to incorporate external communications as part of our business plans. And so, with that, we will kick off episode 16, aka volume 1 of the season 2 premiere of the Communicator. So, Communicator community, let's dive into external comms, shall we? Great. All right. So, to give you the law of the land, external communications is so crucial for any business or organization as it involves how the company interacts with stakeholders outside of its immediate sphere, such as customers, partners, media, and the general public. And so, I want everyone to know that for this particular episode, we're going to be dividing this up into specific parts. The general definition of external communications, why is external communications important, the impact of external communications, the tactics and recommendations, other important facts slash FAQs that you ought to know, and finally, the primary areas within external communications. So, part 1, the general definition. What is external communications? I got you. External communications encompasses all interactions between an organization and individuals or entities outside of the organization. This includes customers, clients, investors, media, regulatory bodies, and the public. That is your general definition of external comms. Pretty standard. And so now we move on from the definition to the why, the heartbeat of absolutely every single message that you put out there. Why is external communications component? Many reasons, but here are some of the most critical, basic ones that you ought to be aware of. First, it builds your reputation. Effective external communications can happily shape and maintain the reputation of an organization in the eyes of the public, especially now in this society where it is of the uttermost importance for businesses and brands to have a reputation that is of high regard and value to the general public. Ultimately, you are there to serve them, and you want to be established as a source of trust for them to be able to utilize your products, services, programs, or any other important needs. Customer relations. Point 2. It plays a pivotal role in establishing and nurturing relationships with customers, fostering loyalty and trust. We shift then on to brand image. External communications helps convey the brand's value, identity, mission, vision, values, and messaging to its target audience or audiences. Especially now that brands are realizing that they want to connect with multicultural or multilingual audiences, it is critical for them to have a deep understanding as to what and who that audience is, the amount of media that they consume, why do they consume it, how often do they need to consume it, their behavioral traits, demographics, and so forth, in order for them to properly introduce themselves to the market and be able to establish a relationship with them. It cements their brand image and for them to be able to genuinely foster any kind of connection. We now move on to crisis management. Crisis management, especially in times of crisis or negative publicity, strong external communications can mitigate damage and restore trust. And finally, competitive advantage. It can differentiate an organization from its competitors and by effectively conveying its USP or unique selling proposition, ROI, return of investment, and other key strengths. From the why, we now move on to its impact. So, what external communications can bring to the table? What can it do for you ultimately? What is the value? Here, let me show you. Let's focus on the perception. External communication shapes as to how the public perceives the organization, its products, and its conduct. We as communicators are narrative, and we can shapeshift perceptions. As part of that narrative, we can customize a message where we can get people to effectively see and consume that message. And the more times that we repeat it, eventually the public is going to catch on and eventually agree with it. And so that is why it is so important for brands whenever they put themselves out there that they have to build and make aware of the perception that they're putting themselves out there for the general public. Trust. Transparent and authentic communication fosters trust among stakeholders, shareholders, board of directors, general audiences, the media, and all other key individuals that the department and eventually the organization has to work with. And just as is important to build your perception, it is equally as important to cement your trust in the market so that way all internal and external audiences can rely on you 100%. Credibility. Consistent messaging enhances the organization's credibility and reliability. Perception, trust, and credibility are three components that we communicators constantly talk about on a daily basis, and they all interconnect with one another. The perception that you establish generates trust, and that trust cements credibility. The market position. Having effective communication can influence market positioning and brand perception. And 5, public relations. It's a critical component of public relations efforts, or PR for short, which includes media coverage and the public sentiment. It is also known as earned media, and we are going to have the opportunity to dive into public relations in depth in a future episode. Now, from the impact, we shift course to the tactics and recommendations. And so it's really important to know your audience. You have to tailor your communication strategies to suit the preferences and needs of your target audience or audiences. You have to be consistent. Maintaining consistency in messaging across all channels to avoid any kind of confusion and reinforce that brand identity. You want to make sure that your brand is memorable and something that consumers are ultimately going to recognize. You must be transparent. And when you're transparent and honest in your communications, I should say, especially during times of crisis or change, you have to also be actively listening to feedback from your audience, internal and external, and incorporate it into your communication strategies in order to continue building the trust that you first establish. Your use of multiple channels, such as social media, press releases, email, newsletters, and public events slash outreach to help you differentiate yourself in segments of your within your audience. The storytelling element, crafting different types of compelling narratives that will resonate with your audiences and effectively convey your brand's values and overall mission. Media relations. Cultivating positive relationships with media outlets can enhance your organization's visibility and manage publicity effectively. And the way to deliver effective media relations is through building relationships. And we're going to have an opportunity to dive into media relations and relationship building in a future episode at some point later this season. Training and guidelines. Provides training, and when you provide training and guidelines, I should say, for employees or any other independent freelancers, you want to be able to involve in external communications to ensure that consistency, professionalism, and guidelines are all equally met. Here are some other important factors to be aware of. The legal and the regulatory compliance. You have to ensure that all different types of external communications strategies and plans complies with the relevant laws and regulations that include data protection, privacy and advertising standards. The monitor and the evaluation component. Regularly monitoring the effectiveness of your external communications efforts through metrics such as media coverage, audience engagement, and brand sentiment. And I highly recommend that if you don't have a media database, I recommend you obtain one because it's going to help you a lot when you do your media monitoring and as well as collect data analysis for you to measure the reach, the segment, and other important social media metrics that your senior executives and other key individuals want to be aware of. And of course, adaptability. Being prepared to adapt your communication strategies in response to changing circumstances, market trends, and stakeholder feedback. And now we're going to go into the final area of today's episode, which is the primary areas within external communications. So there are several primary areas that every organization typically focus on to effectively engage with stakeholders. These areas encompass various channels and strategies that are aimed at conveying messages, relationship building, and as well as managing the organization's overall reputation. Here are some of the areas that you ought to be aware of. Now, note some of these primary areas that I'm going to be mentioning are going to be spun off into future episodes, or you may hear them again at some point within the episodes that I'm going to be mentioning. So they're either going to be standalones or they're going to be part of future episodes within the season. So I recommend you be aware of them because you're definitely going to hear them again. Obviously, the very first one that comes right off the bat, which I just revealed in a spoiler that is going to be a future episode, is media relations. Media relations involves establishing and maintaining positive relationships with journalists, reporters, and media outlets. This includes issuing press releases, organizing press conferences, responding to media inquiries, generating media materials such as press kits, and so forth. The importance of it is mainly due to media coverage. The media coverage that you garner can significantly impact public perception and brand reputation. Positive media relations can help you generate favorable publicity results and as well as manage any kind of crisis situations that appear, whether it's on a daily or a one-off. And so media relations is also known as earned media, and is also one of the most important aspects within corporate communications. You have to know how to generate media, but you also at the same time have to be able as to how to build relationships with them. And one of the ways to do so, again, another spoiler, is to have an understanding as to who the journalist is, the outlet that he or she writes for, and the audience that he or she tailors their content to. And again, we'll be diving about media relations in depth on a future episode. The other one that we're going to be diving more in depth as a standalone episode is public relations, aka PR. We all know that one as well. Public relations is a broader set of activities aimed at managing the organization's image and reputation, which includes strategic communications planning, reputation management, and stakeholder engagement. PR helps shape public perception, build your credibility, and fosters positive relationships with key stakeholders, including customers, investors, and the community. And I just love giving spoilers because it is the season 2 premiere, so why not? We're also going to be doing a future episode that is going to we're going to be doing a compare and contrast between media relations and public relations, because sometimes people get confused as to what each of them do within the external communications umbrella. Don't worry, I got you. Another primary area that people ought to be aware of is corporate social responsibility communications, or CSR for short, and that is one of the newer areas within corporate communications that has, more specifically, external communications that have been on the rise and well known within the last decade. CSR communications involves communicating the organization's social and environmental initiatives, philanthropic activities, and sustainable business practices to extend stakeholders. It also demonstrates a commitment to CSR, where it enhances the organization's reputation by strengthening the brand loyalty and attracts socially conscious customers and investors. CSR also has a very strong connection to advocacy communications, and it is also, since this is one of the newer areas, they put a lot of emphasis as to some of the nonprofit and other societal initiatives that can have and generate strong tie-ins to the overall mission and vision of the organization. And we're going to be hearing a lot more about that in coming up in the future. Marketing communications, primary area number 4. Marketing communications focuses on promoting products or services to external audiences through advertising, branding, promotions, and digital marketing channels. Effective marketing communications that can drive sales, increase brand awareness, and differentiate the organization from competitors in the marketplace. Everybody knows marketing communications, especially if you work in house. Both marketing and communications go hand in hand. They're almost similar and different in many ways, and they always interact with one another. I'm sure you've all heard of the peso model, which also kind of gives you a very detailed roadmap as to what it entails. And so, marketing and communications, in many ways, is an extension on advertising for your organization and so forth. Investor relations, IR for short, which is primary area number 5, and that role involves communicating with shareholders, analysis, and the financial community to provide transparency, build trust, which includes financial reporting, investor presentations, and stakeholder and shareholder meetings. Strong investor relations can help maintain shareholder confidence, attract investment, and support the organization's financial objectives. This financial investor relations has a very strong tie into financial communications. And so, if you are an expert in this area, I'm not as well versed in investor relations. I do have some basic experience, but I definitely think for those big communications firms, is definitely very important to understand numbers, the financial health of your organization, and as well as providing transparency from a numerical standpoint as to where the organization is heading. And so I think I think on that area, it is good to have that knowledge. Crisis communications. Crisis communications involves managing communications during emergencies, crisis, or reputation threatening situations. This includes developing crisis response plans, providing timely updates, and addressing concerns from stakeholders. Effective crisis communications can mitigate reputational damage, restore trust, and minimize the long term impact on the organization's brand and operations. Primary area number 6, We all know, just like with media and public relations, crisis communications is also one of the most important and well known areas within the corporate communications umbrella. And believe me, there are just so many things about crisis communications that everyone must know about. And it is because of that crisis communications is going to be a future season. So while we will be talking some certain areas within crisis communications, I don't want to give it away because eventually I'm going to be dedicating a full future season of crisis comms. So as long as you're part of the communicator family, stay tuned. It's coming. And finally, community relations. Community relations focuses on engaging with local communities, nonprofit organizations, and other stakeholders to support social initiatives, address community needs, and foster positive relationships. It builds strong community, which enhances the organization's reputation, the goodwill, and strengthening ties with the local community. That also has a very strong tie in with advocacy communications, the new area within the corporate communications umbrella, and that too will get a full season fully dedicated by me. And you will be hearing some areas with crisis, some areas about community relations, but I don't want to give it away because it's going to get a long season that it rightfully deserves. And so that is it. We have talked about the primary areas. We talked about the general definition, the why, impact, other important facts, tactics, etc. So I just gave you the entire overview, the law of the land of external communications. And now that you've gotten the time to assimilate everything, we can now go right into the nitty gritty within external communications and start identifying areas within it that I think is going to be very enticing for you all. So, external communications is not just about media, it's about reputational management, crisis, marketing, CSR, PR, and everything in between. It's highly versatile and one that all businesses ought to incorporate. Well, we come to the end of episode 16 of The Communicator. Questions, comments, anything you agree or disagree with? What topic should I focus on next? Any feedback is highly welcome. Just email me at yr.ymedia@gmail.com. The email is listed in the episode description. Don't forget to follow me on social media and on The Communicator. Hit those subscribe buttons and share, like, and comment away as we continue to elevate this podcast. Leave a 5-star rating or review. Lastly, tune into episode 17 in 2 weeks' time, and I'll see you next time on the opposite end of the corporate comms spectrum. Till then, everyone, thank you for making season 2 a huge success. We are back, and let's get this train rolling. Till then.